Let me introduce Rob appropriately before we begin. I guess most of you by now have seen All in the Family at least once or twice or three times. It's the most popular television show in America. It's watched by millions of people every weekend, and it has been on the top of the television polls for, I guess, ever since it came on.
3 years. Well, not right at the beginning. When we first came on the air, we were not doing well, and during the summer reruns, people started catching on to the show, and ever since then it's been number one.
But the first year it was not terribly successful?
No, the first year, we came on mid-season. We came on in January, and people did not find us for a while. They put us opposite some big movies, and we did all right. We didn't do very well, though. Then during the summer reruns, it went like crazy, wildfire.
And ever since then, it's been...
number one, yeah.
I think I saw in the last Nielsen rating you had a 36.4 share.
No, we had a 56 share.
56?
Yeah, 56 share. We might have had a 36.4 rating. People probably don't know what that means or may not even care what that means, but share is really the most important thing. 56 share means your share of the audience. 56% of the sets in use are watching you at that time, and that's what I guess the advertising people are interested. They're interested in how many sets are in use and what percentage of those sets are tuned into your show.
So 56% of all people
watching television at that time were watching us. We had once, I think, high as 62%, which is ridiculous.
That's like Big Brother, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unheard of. It's unheard of.
Do you know what the record is for? I imagine the Apollo 17 moonshot.
Oh, I think the Super Bowl. I think
the
Super Bowl, maybe the Apollo 17 or one of the Apollo shot. Probably the first moon shot was high, but the Super Bowl was awfully big, and I think I read somewhere in the paper that they were selling advertising money on that show for something like $225,000 a minute.
Incredible,
ridiculous,
incredible. I tell you what, you've got a while to spend with us, don't you, Rob?
Sure.
Let us break for some commercials ourselves here, and then when we return, we'll spend a little while talking about All in the Family, the show, get to know each other a bit, and then we'll ask some Snoopy personal questions about you with Rob Reiner. Let us begin at the beginning for you, Rob, with respect to All in the Family. Okay. What were you doing the week before you were hired to do that television show?
I think I was masturbating.
Rob,
can I say that on the air? Or are we blipped? No, I was. I don't know. The week before, no, I was working as a writer mostly. I didn't act much. I'd act here and there. I'd do a part on a TV show. I did a lot of half-hour comedy shows, guest parts on those half-hour shows. But mostly I did some writing. I worked with a committee for a while.
Well, you did in San Francisco?
No, down here. When the committee was down here, I was there for about 4 months. I had a group of improvisational actors of my own that I was in. I directed, and I wrote for the Smothers Brothers show for a while during the last days of the Smothers Brothers, just before they got into the big censorship battles. And I wrote for the Andy Griffith show that lasted not too long, the Headmaster show.
Oh, yeah.
And I wrote, as a matter of fact, I was writing for Tandem Productions before I got All in the Family. I was writing a special called Robert Young and the Family. I don't know if you remember that show.
I don't recall that one.
It was with Robert Young and Dick Van Dyke and a whole bunch of people, but I was writing that was a Bud York and a Norman Lear production. I was writing for that before I got All in the Family. So mostly writing and odd jobs, acting, a picture here and there.
So it was not a new experience to you? You had been around the business?
No, I'd done quite a bit. I did 2 years of summer stock, UCLA. I did theater there, so since I've been 17, I don't know, I've done quite a few plays and things.
Were you pretty much convinced at the beginning of the television show that it would be as successful as it became?
No, I didn't think it was going to be successful at all.
You didn't?
I really didn't. I thought we'd go off after the first 13, which is why I took the job.
I don't understand.
Because they always say that, it may sound terrible to most people, they say the greatest, it's a tremendous thing to be on a hit show, but for an actor, it's awfully stifling of your creativity because you're playing the same part week in and week out, and no actor likes to play the same part week in and week out. I mean, you can for a while, and then you get very tired of it. I'm happy I'm with that show because of all the shows on television, it's probably the most creative and a chance to express myself more than in any other show. So for that, I like it. But still, in all, it's a week-to-week thing. But I didn't think it was going to be successful. I thought, I thought the audience was just going to go wild and turn it off and be hostile and write letters to the network, and it turned out that's just the opposite. And as it turned out to be successful, it's very understandable. I mean, I didn't stop to think that people would be rooting for Archie, and there's a lot of Archie rooters out there, and that's why the show has such a big following.
What is your thought about that? Do most people view it in the context of Carroll O'Connor's role being a parody about the type of person he portrays, or do most people really identify with him as a hero and support the programs?
Well, I think the people who do not agree with him think it's a parody, and I think the people who agree with him think that that's exactly what he should be saying.
What is the largest majority?
Well, obviously the largest majority is the latter, because we have President Nixon for our president. We have a conservative country, Yeah. The thing is, there have been a lot of discussions as to whether it's good or bad for the country, and whether it really ferrets out bigotry, or does it, make it stronger. It's not supposed to do any of those things. I mean, because of its tremendous success, a lot of the critics have been, which as they are wont to do always, is read more into a show than is. It's a half-hour show that depicts certain people the way they are, and it's a very correct depiction, I think.
Carroll O'Connor he came out for George McGovern, I believe, during the election. I read an interview with him in Playboy magazine.
Yeah, he was hard pressed to come out for McGovern. He was, for a long while, was for Dr. Spock, and I argued with him long and hard hours, as did many of the people who were McGovernites around the show.
Are most of the people on the program, you and Sally, and do you all tend to be more of the liberal persuasion?
I would say everyone on our show is a liberal.
What about the writers, producers,
producers, everyone, I would say.
Where do you get the inspiration then of characterizing Archie Bunker as clearly as you do? You would think that you would need some feedback from the other side.
Well, you live with them. I've lived a portion of my life in New York City, which is where Archie hails from, and Norman Lear, who created the series and brought it over from England, he's lived among. He says there's a lot of Archie and his father and people that he's lived with. I mean, Archie, his political views have nothing to do with his moral standards, and those people were around all the time,
That's true. That's true. What about your life away from the cameras? I assume do you do the show 5 days a week?
Yeah, 5-day schedule.
And what's the shooting schedule? What times?
We start work on Wednesday, read around the table, read the script. We get up on our feet Thursday and Friday and block the show without cameras. And then Monday we get on our feet with cameras, and Tuesday night we tape the show. And then Wednesday we start the new show again. When
you tape it Tuesday night, do you go right through in front of a live audience?
Yes.
Or do you stop?
No, we try not to stop. If we make a goof, then we stop. But we do it right straight through. Usually 35 minutes we can do the show.
Are you bored with it by now? Tired of doing it?
I'm not bored of the show. I love watching the show.
I mean doing the show.
Oh, yeah, I'm bored of doing it.
You've had it?
Yeah, I've had it.
How long?
But I think that goes for everybody except maybe Jean Stapleton. I think she has a better attitude about it than any of us on the show.
How much longer are you locked into it contractually? Or are you going to stay for the whole
I'll be 87 by the time I get out of there.
It will go on forever.
It will go on forever. I don't know. As long as the people want it to go on, and as long as the people doing it want to do it, the show may only go for another 3-4 years if everybody says, well, we've had enough of this show,
You say only another 3 or 4 years. Could you see yourself doing this for another 3 years?
I'll do what they tell me to do. I mean, I would like it. My ideal situation is to another 2 years. After this year's completed, if we did another 2, just for the sake of having 5 years worth of shows done.
I'm told by other television actors, a few of them in television series, that if you're in a successful television series for more than a year, you have to become a millionaire. Is that true?
No, it's far from true. You don't become a millionaire. I don't think, unless you're the main star of the show, and I'm not, And also, it's an hour-long film show. There's different rates of money for the tape shows and the film shows. But, somebody, like Jim Arness, he's done that show for 15 years, and you get 35 and 40,000 you hear a week and all that.
Yes.
And if you're making that kind of money, then you can make $1 million. But somebody in my position surely doesn't make $1 million.
When you're through with...
I make a lot. I can afford a corned beef sandwich, though.
I was going to ask you, when you're through with the whole thing, will you be set for the rest of your life, or will you have to continue to work?
No, I'll have to continue to work.
That is
no
surprising.
question about it.
That's
I'll have to work. I'll have to work the year after I finish.
Is that so?
Oh, sure. Sure.
We're going to break for a message, then we'll continue, okay?
Okay.
Good. If you're just joining us, our guest is Rob Reiner, one of the stars of All in the Family, and we'll continue chatting with him in a moment. And, of course, in a little bit, you'll have an opportunity to call up and ask him questions yourself.
You did that very well, Elliot.
Thank you, Rob.
I watch you doing that, and my diction starts to get better. You have very good diction.
Yeah, but I'm terrible in front of a camera.
No, you did that very well.
Rob,
I didn't understand one word of it, but it was so wonderful to watch you do that.
Thank you. What is your mail like? Do you get a lot of crazy, kooky type weird mail?
I get some. I get a lot of religious mail because I play an atheist on the show.
That's right. Your character.
And people cannot disassociate you from your character. I mean, it just does not happen. And I used to think, well, gee, people are awfully stupid. I mean, if they can't see the difference between Rob Reiner and Mike Stivic as a character I'm playing, and not necessarily have the same points of view. But it's not so stupid because I was at a party a while back with Hal Holbrook, who played the senator on television for a while. And I found myself, we were having a political discussion. I found myself listening very intently to what he was saying, more intently than I would say if he was just Hal Holbrook, not on the senator, thinking that, he should know he's a senator, So it does have the television media has a way of convincing people that that's what you are. But I get that kind of mail because of the atheism, and of course. I get a lot of girls write in, they get that kind of thing.
Proposals and stuff.
Proposals, yes. Affairs. I had one postcard that just said, I want to have an affair with you. That was it, the entire postcard. I had one that also said, it was a strange one. She said she had a dream and she made love to my neck. Oh, no, I made love to her neck. That was it. I made love to her neck. It was a real strange one.
So the mail...
But I get mostly good mail. Mostly, young people and old ladies and nice people.
About how much mail do you receive a week?
Oh, I don't know. I don't get them all. Some of them CBS takes.
Yeah.
I get, 50 letters. Not 50, maybe 20 letters a week or something like that.
20 letters a week?
Yeah. And more. Sometimes I get 50 letters. Sometimes I get 3 letters.
It would have seemed to me that your show would have received thousands of angry letters or crazy letters or weird letters, but apparently not.
We had our share. We've had our share, but not any more than any other show. Because I say a lot of people agree with that. We look at it from that point of view, like how dare they? It's a terrible character, but people think that Archie's fantastic. We got one letter from a postcard. And it was pertaining to the impotency show. Did you see that show?
I don't think I saw that one.
In this show, I was impotent for a couple of weeks while I was very, very anxious over some final exams, and I was impotent for a couple of weeks. And we got a letter, disgusting, terrible. How dare you show our the human frailties, hold a mirror up to nature, terrible, violent letter. And on the flip side of the postcard, it was a postcard. Yeah. On the flip side of the postcard, it said, some people do not like to have their shortcomings pointed up to them. You have done a great job with your show. I think it's sensational. Signed, the postman. I swear to you, the postman had read the letter, had read the postcard, and he put his little editorial on the other side. Yeah,
that's a great story.
Yeah.
Let me do a break.
Okay.
This is Talk Radio 79, KABC Los Angeles, where Michael Jackson is waiting to talk with you every morning from 9:05 till 1 p.m. And you should listen to Michael Jackson because in studio tomorrow he will have L.A. School Superintendent William Johnston here. Let's talk just for a moment about some of your personal beliefs and some of these issues, and then we can go to the telephones.
Okie doke.
You mentioned religion as being one of the issues that you get mail about. Do you consider yourself a fairly religious person?
Yes, I do in a way. I don't believe in organized religion, but in my own way, I'm religious. I believe in something. I don't think I want to, I don't, this is a whole, program of discussing that, but I have...
But you do believe in God?
I do believe in something. Yeah, I don't know, I don't call it God, I don't call it anything. I believe in something beyond me that's more powerful than I am. I call him Norman Lear. My neighbor got really mad when I was supposed to be on the show last Friday, I mean, people who listen.
Yes.
And I didn't show because nobody told me where to come.
I know there was a mix-up.
And that people saw me in the street, were violent towards me. You stood me up. I was listening to the show. Where were you?
Bobby Sherman called up that night, saved the night for us.
I know, I heard.
Saved the night.
That was very nice of him.
You were in one of his shows.
Yes, I did one of his shows last year, Getting Together.
Mona and the Moonbeams.
Yes, my wife was my wife was Mona. I was one of the Moonbeams. I
didn't know that.
I played a moonbeam to her Mona.
In Los Angeles. KABC, Elliot Mintz, you're on Talk Radio with Rob Reiner.
Hello, Rob.
Hello.
I'd like to ask you two basic questions. One deals with the show, one deals with you.
Okay.
On All in the Family, I see you and Archie Bunker having all kinds of arguments about bigotry, racism, prejudice, intolerance. And sometimes the arguments come to a really punchy climax, and other times they just drop dead. At times, Archie says that he's not a bigot, he's not a racist. I'm wondering, have you done a show yet in which you asked Archie what his definition of a bigot or racist was?
We haven't done that question specifically, but we have a show coming up where Archie says he's not prejudiced. He's always saying he's not prejudiced.
Yeah, I'd like to know his definition of bigotry and racism is.
You'd have to ask him, but we did one joke I remember. He said, "I don't hate a man just because he has the same color skin as mine." I think that's his definition of...
I heard that one. But I'm wondering why Norman Lear has steered clear of having Archie define what is to him a bigot or a racist, which he clearly is. What is to him somebody who's bigoted or racist? Also, I'd like to ask you, All in the Family, I take it, will be going off another year after this. And this will be...
Wait a second. What is that?
I take
Rob just turned white. Where did you hear the information?
I'm assuming...
It'll go off when?
That it'll keep on going on.
Oh, keep on going on. I thought you said it was going off next year.
Misunderstood me.
I got nervous. I was filing for unemployment already.
No, I assume it will go on for another year. I have only watched a few shows this year because when I've been over at friends' house because I myself do not have a television, thank goodness.
Yeah, well.
And I'd like to know if this continues for more than a year, another year, which will be your third and a half year on the series next year.
No, this is our third and a half.
Next year
will be the fourth and a half, right.
Do you see yourself, if the thing goes on for more than another year more, will you continue on the show if it goes on for, say, 10 or 15 years, or will you quit and go on to something else?
Well, I'm not going to wait 10 or 15 years. I'll stay on a couple more years, and when everybody decides we've had enough... We talked about this a second ago.
Yes,
he wasn't listening. You weren't listening to the early part of the program, sir.
But I thank you for your inquiry. KABC, Elliot Mintz, you're on Talk Radio with Rob Reiner.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Rob Reiner, how did he shape his character? Is it like outside influences? Is it his own life, or does he just read it from the script?
All three. A lot of them are people that I've known. A lot of it is taken from my own experiences, and a lot of it is pure faith.
And I was wondering, how old are you?
I was wondering that too. No, I'm 25.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
870-7263 KABC. Elliot Mintz, you're on Talk Radio with Rob Reiner.
Hi, Elliot.
Yeah.
I'm your movie critic, but I've called in to talk to Rob.
Oh.
Who's this?
This is a fellow who calls in all the time. He has seen every motion picture ever made. He is the ultimate critic.
All right, wait a minute. You ready?
You're going to ask me if I've seen Last Tango, right?
No. That. Have you seen a picture called Big Deal on Madonna Street?
No, I haven't. You stumped me.
I caught you. One of the finest comedies ever made. It's an Italian picture with Vittorio Gassman and Marcello Mastroianni, and Alberto Sordi, I think, is also in the picture. If you get a chance, see it.
You have stopped the critic.
I knew I'd stop him with that one.
Boy, that was incredible.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Anyway,
but now I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
Yes.
I submitted a script to All in the Family,
Uh-oh.
and Don Nichol looked at it,
Yes.
and he, of course, he's your story editor.
Right.
And I just want, no, it wasn't accepted. It was turned down, and I was given the reason that John Rich didn't particularly like it, which I don't know if that was true or not. But I would just, if I give you a 3-sentence summary of the script, I would just like for once to hear your critical opinion of it, because it would have starred you. It would have featured you.
Well, I don't want to listen to it only because if there is a show in the works or one that we might be thinking about doing and is similar to that, you could sue us. So I can't.
Even
really...
oh, that's right. I can't even promise you that I wouldn't do that. I just wanted to hear it, to make myself feel better. Your critical opinion.
Oh well, you'll have to do that privately with me.
Oh, okay. Well, I accept that. Okay, can I ask you one other question?
Yes, go ahead.
Are the rumors true when Carol O'Connor says that he wants to be out of the show next year?
I don't think so.
You've heard those rumors.
Yes, I've heard the rumors.
Gosh, the critic knows.
The critic knows the rumors.
The critic knows the rumors.
He knew those rumors.
Okay, well, then you've answered that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, critic. Okay, we'll return to 870-7263. I had a question about that. I imagine lots of people must constantly be submitting story ideas, scripts.
Well, yes, many.
What percentage is written by your own team of writers, and what percentage is taken from outside of the family?
Well, at the beginning of the year, we go outside the family for story ideas and also scripts. When it comes down to it, though, basically most of the writing is done by the in-house writers because they're closest to the characters. They've been working with the characters year in and year out, and they're very used to what the characters will and won't do. And also, there's a good deal of writing done by the company itself, myself and Carol and Gene and Sally and Mike Evans, and also John Rich. It's a very collaborative thing. The scripts are, so when you see on the screen it's written by and there's a name, usually you could put in its place 17 names because it's really done very, very jointly.
So for the most part, people who just mail in scripts and story ideas, for the most part, that is not really taken terribly seriously.
Oh, it is. It's if they're willing to sign a release saying that they won't sue and all that, they are read. All ideas are read, and every once in a while, an outside person, a story will be bought. And especially when the series goes on in its 4th and 5th years, you start
running out of ideas.
Right, then
Sure.
you'll take anything. Edith loses her
teeth.
Whatever,
yes. Okay, a couple of messages and we'll return. We're talking to Rob Reiner.
Before we go any further, I want to get that booklet on how to live with my dentures because I've been having some problems. We're thinking about separating. My dentures have filed for divorce, and I just want to know. I like to learn how to live with my dentures.
I'll be happy to give you the book, and it's one that you can really sink your teeth into.
Oh, no.
Elliot.
No.
With the incredible exposure that you get on television, do you have and you are an easy person to recognize by virtue of your appearance, in addition to the exposure on television. Does that annoy you a great deal, the fact that you have a loss of anonymity on the street at parties and stuff?
It does sometimes when people are annoying. People can be annoying and people can be very nice and sweet. And when they're nice and come up very nicely, I don't mind. But they can be very intrusive and loud, and then it is annoying. Like when you're eating, and they stop you or something.
Does it happen frequently? Is it usually?
It happens once in a while, It's not that bad, actually.
Because I have seen you now, and we seem to have the same taste in restaurants.
Right.
And you seem to be left pretty much by yourself.
Yeah,
Most people don't.
I don't know. The people are out here in Los Angeles, especially. It's not too bad because they see so many actors and celebrities and things. They don't. They're not in awe so much, but in New York City or any place else you go, they go crazy. They'll tear at you and run up to you and jump on you and stuff. Out here, it's not too bad.
Do you spend a great deal of time with other celebrities, other actors and actresses, or are your close circle of friends removed from the business?
I guess most of them are in some way related to the business. I wouldn't call them celebrities, or they may be celebrities. I don't make a point of hanging around celebrities, but whoever it is is a friend, you know.
But they're usually show business people?
Yeah, well, that's the people who I come in contact with most, you know. I have a few non-show business friends, you know.
When you're
the boring ones. No. No, I'm just kidding.
Are you one for going to all of the parties and the openings,
No,
the
I don't
premieres?
go to any of those things. I
don't?
really don't enjoy any of that stuff.
What about your relationship with press agents, press people?
I don't have one.
You
I
don't
have a press agent, and I don't. The first year at All in the Family, I did interviews for papers and things that were set up through the CBS publicity department. But since then, I haven't done any interviews. As a matter of fact, this thing on your show, I mean, I only came down here because I like you, and I wanted to talk with you. You know, I don't do any interviews or any of those things because they're awfully painful, most of them, you know. Painful in the fact that the interviewers are boring, or they don't ask good questions, and they're the same questions. And
has there ever been...
that is not to say that these aren't the same questions, too, but, I mean, I haven't done it in so long, you know.
Has there ever been any situation or series of questions or things that you've ever wanted to talk about publicly that you've never had an opportunity? Is there any aspect of your life that has never been probed that you... had a desire to...
Yes, my transvestism. I haven't been really talking about...
We're not going to probe that
Okay,
tonight.
all right.
Are you in psychotherapy?
At present, I am. That's it. That's a good answer to that. Yes. Yes is the answer to that question.
How long have you been in therapy?
Well, starting when I was 19, I was in analysis for 3 years on the couch, Freudian analysis. I went crazy and got better.
How crazy did you get?
Very crazy. I was in a room. I flipped out for like 3 months. I sat in a room staring at the walls. And
literally?
Yeah. I was total bananas there for a while. And I got better. I worked through it. I worked very hard. And then I stopped going to a shrink. And I've not been going to one until recently. I started going back. Brush-up work, you know.
Is it mainly... I don't mean to probe or get too personal.
That's all right.
But is it mainly the pressures of work, or are there private matters? What seems to be...
There are all kinds of things that pile up that cause this. You can't attribute a mental breakdown to any one specific thing. It's a whole bunch of things.
Would you classify it as a mental or nervous breakdown?
They didn't. I don't think. I think it was what they called a prolonged, intensive anxiety attack. But it's a very similar type of thing. I wasn't in a hospital or anything like that.
Were you going through that while you were taping the shows?
No. This was way before All in the Family. I was at that time working as a writer on the Smothers Brothers show. I was 21. I was the youngest writer on the show.
Gosh, was that during your drug period also?
Yes, it was during the drug period. I was very confused. I was really very confused. I had a tremendous competitive thing with my father that I was trying to work out and all that.
I'm curious about that. I don't want to dwell upon your dad, but is there still...
No, that was one of the wonderful things that happened when I started to get a little healthy. I started not having that competitive thing with him, and we have a fantastic relationship now. We get along very well.
Was it an asset in the beginning that your dad, was in the business and so successful, or was it...
It's an asset. It's not. It's also not such an asset. Most people who don't really know what goes on would think, well, it's got to be just an asset, and it usually is less of an asset than more. It's an asset in the fact that the doors open, and a lot of people say, well, that's all that matters. But it also closes twice as fast, if you don't, you're constantly compared, and especially if your father is talented and respected, if you're, they're right away comparing you with him, and if you don't have that, it's very disheartening.
What do you see yourself doing in 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Well, what I want to do, what I'm doing a little bit of now, I created a series that was short-lived last summer called The Super with my partner Phil Mishkin, and we have a writing team together. We write and create movies and television, and what we eventually want to do is direct and produce and write whatever it is we're interested in.
So ultimately, you'd like to get away from in front of the cameras, perhaps get behind the cameras.
Yeah, I enjoy acting, and to me, it would be something to do once in a while. Maybe a picture here. a guest shot here or something like that, but not a week-to-week thing, what I have now.
We have only a minute left. If there is something about yourself that you would like a lot, seriously now, that you would like a lot of people to know who would not be able to know it just by watching the character you portray, what aspect of your life would you like them to be aware of?
Gee, that's a tough question. I don't know. That's a rough one. I'm a good softball player. No, I don't know. I can't answer.
So almost a legacy type question of how you would like to be remembered.
And that's a question that's hard to answer because it's like a tattoo. You know,
once it's there,
you can't get it off. You know, you put that tattoo on, and it's all of a sudden, those kind of things change every other day. Legacies, what you put on your tombstone, or all those things, and they change every other day. So I don't want to stick my foot in on that one.
Are you pretty happy?
I would say I'm as happy as the next guy, which is not very happy if you're at all aware of yourself and life. I have happy moments, let's put it that way, and those are fine. That's enough.
Okay, we'll continue now with our conversation with Rob Reiner, and we'll stay off the phones for a few minutes because I had some questions. And
unless somebody has something very pressing.
I don't want to get personal. I mean, I always say
You've gotten personal with me. You've dragged me over the coals, Elliot.
No. It's just, I know that there are people who have tremendous interest and curiosity in people like you, and unfortunately, Johnny Carson or the folks just never get into those areas. Nothing against Johnny Carson or those folks, so that's why when we have you, I like to pursue those things.
Yeah, okay.
So I do want to get back to the drug experience, because I know that's something that a lot of kids who listen to us can relate to and identify with.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think that anybody who's into drugs is going to listen or care what I say. I mean, that's the nature of being into drugs. When I was into drugs, there was nobody who could tell me about drugs and how bad they were. I mean, of course, the only people who were talking against drugs at that time were establishment or so-called establishment.
I think there's the difference.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there's the difference.
Yes, I have two.
That I have taken drugs, and that maybe because of that, people will listen to me a little bit quicker than they'll listen to a cop or somebody like that.
And there are also some other, because I've discussed this with other people on the air, and when you talk to an audience from San Diego to Santa Barbara, there is just the shot in the dark that you'll reach one or two, and my mail indicates that from time to time you do, and for that reason it suddenly becomes interesting.
Yeah, well, it's worthwhile. It's definitely worthwhile if you can reach one person.
Okay, we're gonna talk with Rob about the drug situation in just a moment. Let me just do a couple of bits of business, and then we shall do it. Okay?
Okay.
We're going to get back to that drug conversation, but Mrs. Reiner is back on the phone again.
She won't leave me alone.
Yes, well, we should go to... Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Please don't listen to the radio, Pen.
Honey?
Oh, it's Louise. What do you want?
Honey, this is Penny. Who is that other woman?
Oh, come on, Louise. Now, don't start with this. This is terrible. This is very childish now.
What do you mean childish, honey? Who is that other woman that said she was your wife? I'm a little confused.
Oh, you've taken some kind of drug. Obviously.
No, I haven't taken any kind of drug. I just put a call into you, and then I just suddenly heard someone saying it was your wife.
You can't, Louise, you can't do this because I'll tell you why.
Why?
It's funny, but nobody who's listening will believe this.
Believe what?
You see,
honey,
you
I
can't.
have a lawsuit.
Oh, all right. So you can't see. This is fun in our house, but what you have to understand is that the entire Elliot Mintz audience do not understand any of that you're doing here.
Why? Think how I feel. I mean, on national radio or local or whatever.
Sure, the question of the night is, which is the real Mrs. Reiner?
Who I'm talking to now is Louise Lasser, who used to be married to Woody Allen. I gave you your credit, Louise.
Oh, I know Louise Lasser,
yes,
of course.
of Bananas fame. She was in the picture Bananas.
No,
and the
sorry,
Alka-Seltzer commercial.
NyQuil. She did NyQuil.
Penny Reiner. Yeah. And I'd like to know who called before posing as
No, now I
Mrs.
recognize
Reiner.
her voice. Yeah.
That was Louise Lasser who called before.
No, that's a lie. I mean, this is Mrs. Reiner, and
I just want to know what's going on, who that other person was that was I mean, I know we have an open marriage, honey, but, listen, I mean, the thing that bothered me the most was she had the same grocery list I was just about to.
Louise, I loved you in that commercial.
Well, thank you.
We found the real one. Nice talking with you.
Okay.
Good night. See, whenever you bring up the commercial, she responds immediately.
Right, she loves her commercials.
Yeah, let's just get back to the drug thing
Yes,
for just a moment. Unless, but that would
No, fine.
be strange if another woman called in claiming to be your wife. That
Yes.
could start being an ongoing thing that goes
We
on
don't
here.
need to do that anymore.
Yeah, just because there might be one or two people who will be influenced by the fact that they can relate to you and identify with you. Let's just go through it. How deeply did you get involved in LSD? How many times have you taken it?
I've taken it about 4 or 5 times. Not a lot. I wasn't heavily into it. I was more heavily into speed at one point.
Tell us about that.
Diet pills. Never. Methadone once in a while, but never. I never shot anything. I don't like needles.
You were just popping pills.
Pills and things like that.
Benzodrine pills?
And, yeah, right. Bennies or any number of Desoxyn or Dexedrine,
Dexamyl.
Esketrol, yeah, all of the derivatives.
How many were you taking a day? Were you physically addicted to them?
Well, you don't really get physically addicted to speed.
I mean, you do constantly have the yearning and the desire to
yeah,
to
but it's not
duplicate
a
that
physical.
feeling.
It's not a physical addiction because your cells don't require it. What happens with heroin is once it's injected and you get hooked on it. I mean, you don't get hooked, and that's another thing. There's so many myths about it. You don't get hooked on right away if you just take one shot of heroin. But if you eventually get hooked on heroin, then the lack of heroin will cause physical pain in the cells in your system. Not having the heroin, you will go into withdrawal, and it will be very painful. Speed, there isn't that kind of pain. There's a psychological addiction to it, where that when you're having that very up feeling, and then all of a sudden you're not feeling that way, you want to feel that way again. But it's not a physical thing.
How much speed were you taking, though? Was it a question of every day, or
for a short period there, I was taking it every day. Yeah.
How, and like a couple of times a day? Were you just always on? You were always on speed.
Yeah.
This was before the television show.
Yes, this was before.
What was your life like then? What kind of things were you involved in? Were you acting? Were you unemployed?
I acted a little bit, sporadically, never a lot. I didn't. You can't really function. You can't really function to your capacity when you're taking drugs, and it's such a terrible time of my life, and talking about it now, even now, brings back incredible pain and anguish. I mean, I was just totally confused and depressed most of the time, and it's a very, very rough point in my life that I went through, and I'm glad I'm not doing that again.
How did you get the drugs?
Oh, you get them,
I mean, did you get them legally through a doctor?
No. You get them through, there are ways.
Contacts.
There are ways of getting them, yeah.
It must be also dangerous in your position because you can afford to take drugs. I mean,
now I can. I really didn't have the money then. I mean, it wasn't that expensive. Those pills aren't that expensive. And
that's true. Yeah.
Heroin, that's an expensive addiction, and cocaine and things like that.
Were the LSD experiences frightening for you, interesting, pleasant?
The first few were very interesting and good. I mean, they were all good, and you can't term what's good and bad. They weren't frightening in terms of paranoia or anxiousness, but the last one I took was very, very frightening.
Describe that one for us.
It's very hard to describe because I don't really. It was so unclear in my mind as I was going through it that I can't quite recall everything that happened. All I remember was feeling like killing myself. Had been to that point, and it was just totally paranoid, to that point of psychotic paranoia, and I was ready to kill myself. And I said, "Wait a minute here, what's going on? I mean, I was totally out of control."
How much had you taken? Do you know?
I guess it was about 500 mics. Not a lot, but
more than a small dose.
A nice sized trip.
But do you remember the setting? You don't tell us who you were with, but were you with friends, alone?
I took it alone, and then I was eventually with somebody who helped me through it. and realized I was on it and helped me get off it. I had to take a Seconal, to bring me down.
A downer.
Yeah.
To bust it.
Thorazine is good too if you get on, if you get to a place you can't handle it.
Yeah. Have you known suicidal moments in your life?
Oh, yes, sure. I haven't known them for quite a while since I've been off drugs and since I've sort of got my head together. It's an overworked phrase, but I guess that's as good a phrase as any. But I have had, suicidal moments, definitely, where I felt like, what the heck?
Have you ever tried to kill yourself?
No, never actually tried to kill myself.
So it's just depressing
just thoughts.
and
Very, very deep depressions and thoughts of that.
What methods or devices do you utilize now to keep yourself straight? I know you're in psychotherapy. Is there anything else that you do, or is it that you rely upon for...
Well, I don't really rely upon it. My head is in a place where I don't really rely upon anything like that. My head is together, and I know what I want, and I know who I am, and I know what makes what I enjoy and what makes me enjoy life, and I go towards those things. It was a searching process. It's that age-old identity problem. And I had it in spades.
Mm.
Now I'm pretty much sure of who I am and what I want to do, and for that I don't really have to.
Then why are you still in therapy? I mean, if you are that,
I went back into therapy because, like I was talking earlier about my relationship with my wife, it had not been good, and I wanted it to be good because we love each other and are very, very good friends, and the fact that it wasn't going good was very disturbing to me, and I went into therapy for that reason. And I probably won't be in it much longer. I don't feel that tremendous desire and need to go to a therapist.
How often do you go?
I go once a week.
So now it's almost like because it's a habit, you're just kind of playing it out.
Well, I hadn't gone for a couple of years, and I just started up recently, and it's almost like a refresher course. I mean, I hate to put it in those terms, but that's something maybe people will understand. It's like, even when you're, an actor, every once in a while you got to go back to school, or anything, anything you do well in order to keep abreast of who you are, and in this case, of who you are and what you want out of life. It's like a refresher.
And you seem to be, I don't know you at all. I mean, this is the first time we've ever talked. I just see you in all these restaurants that...
we've talked a little bit here and there.
At the restaurants.
Chat here and there, yeah.
But you seem to be extremely sure of yourself and well-adjusted together.
I am very sure of myself now. That's one of the things I came away from my... anxiety-ridden periods with, is a tremendous self-confidence, good or bad. I mean, I do have that. I have an enormous amount of self-confidence.
Did you see the motion picture Joe?
Yes, I did.
I reviewed it on the air after I had seen it, and one of the things that I had remarked about it is that the person that I wound up having the most compassion and concern for was not the little girl nor her father, but indeed Joe.
Well, Joe, of course, he's the one that's in trouble.
Yeah. And
he's the one that's really in trouble, and we have to feel sorry for.
And it would seem to me that Archie Bunker is just a funny Joe,
Yes, he's a much, it's the funny look at that same type of character. Yes, you feel sorry for him, and you feel bad. He's a caged animal. The world is changing around him, and he doesn't know how to adjust to it, and he's really in jail. He's the one that's in jail.
He really is, isn't he?
Yeah, really.
That's one of the reasons I only am able to watch the first 20 minutes of all of your programs because I have to be here. And I've seen a good dozen of them at least, but always missed the last 7 minutes of the program.
Yeah,
which
you missed the best part, Elliot.
It might alter my perception because, at the end, maybe it all comes together differently than when I leave it, when everything is left in limbo. I'd love to see a whole show once, but I have this tremendous feeling of compassion and concern for Joe. Because I think he is, although he does not recognize it, he being the greatest supporter of the system that is really isolating him and ostracizing him
absolutely.
And putting him down.
I'm so glad you said that, because it's so true. I mean, he's supporting with incredible amounts of fervor a system that is just doing him in.
Exactly.
And that's another reason that I was so upset about the election, because all the people who voted for Nixon, all those people don't understand what they're voting for. They're voting against themselves.
Unlike you, I'm not a politically inclined person. It's just a personal belief of mine that change never comes from without, it always comes from within, and that to look to others to alter your environment is a kind of expunging self of guilt and responsibility and blah, blah, blah. That's another evening.
I agree.
But I would
somewhat with that.
I would think that the Archie Bunker character, whoever he votes for, I think he'll always get hurt in the long run, no matter who he votes for.
That's probably true, right?
He's just misplaced. He is a man of a different time and a different perception, and just could not coordinate his lifestyle to correspond with the changes around him.
Right.
And it transcends politics. Do you think in that context, All in the Family, and I don't believe this, but it has been raised by people, that All in the Family merely serves to exploit his dilemma and turn him into a laughingstock, the tragedy of his aloneness?
We're not trying to exploit anything. What we're just trying to do is paint a correct picture of a series or set of characters that do exist, and tell the audience, America, and whoever's watching, that this is the way these people behave. Not to exploit them or do anything.
But in the end, Archie almost seems to be satisfied and pleased with his stock in life.
He is. He's totally blind to what's happening.
But the real Archies aren't, are they? I mean, they are forever.
Well, they say that they're totally happy and content, and
I wonder. I mean, the ones that I hear from are not. The ones that I hear from are anything but content, or constantly the way they are but when the first commercial comes on in your show. Maybe at the end it all comes together, the part that I always miss, but at the first commercial, where it's left is where those folks, to me, always seem to be. You hear them a couple of times on this radio station, you know, and they're tremendously anxious and depressed and worked up and have lost control of everything around them. And I just wonder if you think about that at all, or am I just reading too much into a comedy television?
No, I don't think you are. I just think that those people, if they are at the point where they're admitting their dilemma, then they are far beyond most of the Archies. I don't consider those people Archies, because Archies are really blind to their dilemma. Things are happening to them and they don't know why they're happening, or really are upset about them, so they just accept them for what they are and say, well, that's all right, and I like life this way, and status quo, and blah, 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 and all that. But I think people who are aware of the fact that that their lifestyle does not coincide with what is, are on the road to finding out what is, If that makes any sense.
It does, I understand.
Yeah.
You were forever trying to convince Archie of his, his closed-mindedness. You were always trying to enlighten him and show him the way, and gently and gradually.
And loudly, too.
Would you in real life?
Probably not as avidly as Mike Stivic does. Mike Stivic is a little bit close to some realities too. He hasn't lived as much, I don't think, as I have, and I will engage in a conversation with somebody like that and then get fed up very much quicker than Mike Stivic will.
And you'll just split.
Yeah. It's a very exasperating thing to me.
Your relationship with your parents, I assume your father is a very hip guy, and he's been around show business folks, and I'm sure you never encountered the problems with him that you would. I mean, your dad is obviously not an Archie Bunker type, but the relationship with your parents while you were growing up, was there a conflict? Was there any type of generation?
Oh, we had enormous problems. I had tremendous problems. Earlier I expressed the competitive thing I had with my father. We didn't communicate very well. He had a difficulty talking to me as I did him. And only in the last couple of years have we been able to really establish a very strong rapport and relationship. And the other day we had lunch, and we even talked about wanting to, work and do a movie together where he would direct me or something like that. And it's something that I look forward to with a lot of delight, whereas maybe 5 or 6 years ago it would have been the most horrible thing you could have mentioned to me. And my mother has always been very supportive of me, very, very supportive of me, and she's given me a lot of strength.
What
And
what is
I
she
have a
like?
very good relation, huh?
What kind of a woman is she? What is she like?
She's a wonderful lady, very sweet lady, very creative lady. In many ways, more creative than my father. She's an artist, and a singer, and a musician, and a really nice lady.
So your relationship with both of your parents, outside of the competitive thing in the business, has been good. Has been a lot.
It has been good recently. I've had so many problems that I couldn't relate to really anybody, let alone them, and especially then, you know. But as of late, it's been, you know, fantastic.
Are you the only child?
No, but I was the firstborn, and it's funny that you should ask that, because a lot of people ask that, and being a firstborn is almost like being an only child, because all of the things that happen to an only child happen to a firstborn. All the attention and the protection and all of that permissiveness happens to the first child. Now I have a sister who's 23 and a brother who's 12.
What does your sister do?
My sister is going to be a psychologist. She's just finishing up. She's going to be graduating UCLA this quarter and going on to graduate school, and she's going to be a psychologist.
Are all of the people in your family proud of you and watch the show all the time?
I think so, yeah. I think my mother, both my mother and father are very proud of me.
It must be a great feeling.
Yes, it's wonderful. You know, it's fantastic.
We have just a couple of minutes now, and there were a couple of things I wanted to ask you. You have reached the epitome of success, obviously, in the television trip. I can't imagine All in the Family, anything surpassing All in the Family in terms of ratings for a good time to come. Do you feel fulfilled? Creatively?
Not completely, no, because there's a big part of me that wants to write and direct and produce and do all the things that make a show like All in the Family happen, other than just act in it. But that'll come in time.
If you had been of draft age during the height of the Vietnam War...
I was draft age during that.
And faced with the alternative of going to jail, leaving the country, or fighting...
Yeah, jail.
Definitely?
Yep.
Without hesitation?
Without hesitation.
What are your thoughts on capital punishment?
It's pointless. It's a pointless thing.
And legalizing of marijuana?
It should be done.
Is there any typical kind of liberal position that you find yourself at odds with, or do you fairly much fit into the stereotype of going down the line?
I don't know. You'd have to talk about whatever subject. I would like to not to think of myself as a stereotyped anything. You know, I'd like to think I'm open-minded on any subject. But these last few subjects you mentioned, I guess you would call me a stereotyped liberal.
The 2 hours have whizzed by. I could think of a billion questions that I could ask you.
Yeah, this has been good.
Multifaceted person, and your wives, both of them.
Yes, both of my wives were good.
They seem like charming people.
Yeah.
We must do this again someday.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to.
Be fun. I'd like to do it perhaps, we don't have to wait that long, but when All in the Family ends, you know...
Elliot, you're not going to be here at ABC then.
Well, one never knows.
Yeah, that's true.
One never knows. But when it's all behind you, I'd like to talk with you again.
Yeah, sure.
You've been a guest.
Whatever station you are at the time, I'll come over and visit you.
You've been a delight to have down here, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rob Reiner from All in the Family.